Alrighty, so this is a quick review of what 3.2 was about. You have 12 problems in 3.2, and then I need you to do the quiz, and I can't remember what's the number of the quiz, but it's 3.1 and 3.2. So that's what you're going to be working on. The first thing, this is where we learned about degrees. Do you remember which one's a degree?
The first exponent of the biggest coefficient.
Is that the way it is?
The exponent.
So the first exponent of the biggest coefficient. Oh, no. So it's something like that? Something like that. Let's say this is what you had. Let's put a 5 here. So we have this problem. This is a 4, this is a 2, and this is a 3. What is your degree to this problem?
3. 4. Oh, 4.
4. You have to put these in order. This is the first thing. This is next. This is next. This is next. And this is it. It is the largest exponent right there. That is your thing. This is a degree of 4. Well, you figure it out. You should know what it is. This is a very simple, let's not be judgmental of what I'm writing. You already saw this. I know you guys get entertained by my mistakes. All right, so that's the first thing you have to do, figure out if that's the case. Next thing is, how do you know if it's a polynomial or not a polynomial? Let me show you examples of not polynomial. So not a function. These are examples so you can keep in mind while you're doing your work. If I end up with a negative exponent, because this becomes 1 over x squared, your x cannot be in your denominator. This is why this is not a function. If I have the cube root of x, because it becomes x to 1/3, these have to be whole numbers. Alrighty, so we're good. Anything like that will be not a function. If you remember, the first question here is determine the degree and if it's a function. That's basically what the first question. Then after that, we talked about something called end behaviors. Do you remember that? Hearing about it. If not, we're going to refresh really quick. If your exponent is odd means 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on, and your leading coefficient, remember your LC, is positive. So I'm just abbreviating on the notes because I don't expect for you to write everything, but you have 3.2 notes in there. If your exponent is odd and your leading coefficient is positive, the graph falls to the left and rises to the right. But if your leading coefficient is negative, then it rises to the left and it falls to the right. Do you remember covering this? Yes? And let me just make that a little bit smaller. A quick little thing is this one goes like this, where it falls to the left, in case you want to actually draw a little sketch. And this one's going to go the other way. It falls to the right, and it goes up. So they go in opposite directions. Odd. Opposite directions. One up, one down. Going down, going up, going up, going down. Now, if your exponent is even. Just so you know, they go in the same direction. Just in case you forgot. So first thing is if your leading coefficient is positive, it rises to the left and rises to the right. They both go up because it's positive. So if I were to do a little sketch, the graph goes like this. Goes up and goes up. If your leading coefficient is negative, then what does it do on both sides? Falls to the left, falls to the right. So if we were to do a sketch, falls down, falls down. They go in the same direction. So 1 and 2 would come from the first section, 3 and 4 would come from this end behavior thing. So I'm going to give you a simple little equation. Hopefully just one of them should be enough. Let's say we had f of x equals negative 3x squared minus 2x to the 6th plus 4. First thing is, can you tell me the end behaviors? Yes or no?
No.
Is it in order? No, it's not. So that's the first thing you need to do. Put this in order. Who would go first?
Negative 2x to the 6th.
So negative 2x to the 6th minus 3x to the 5th. And nothing else really matters. We just need to look at this part. So first thing is my leading coefficient, is my exponent odd or even? This is even. Very good. Because it's even, I have to just look at this part. Now, is my leading coefficient positive or negative? Negative. So then what would my answer be? Falls to the left, falls to the right. So when you're doing your assignment, please have these little notes out so you could use them. Falls to the left, falls to the right. Are we good with that? I don't have to do another one, right? All right. Next part, and this is should be for problems 3 and 4, I think. Problems 3 and 4. Is everybody done? Next part deals with multiplicity. You remember hearing the word multiplicity?
Yes.
Yes? Very good. The multiplicity. So let's say I had a problem, and this is going to be for problems 5 and 6 from your assignment. So given the problem, f of x equals x cubed minus 7x squared minus 4x plus 28. So the first thing is I need to find my zeros. That's the first thing you have to do. Find your zeros, so you have to factor out. Is this thing already factored? No, but when you have 4 things, you factored by doing what? Grouping. So we put the first 2 together, the second 2 together. Grouping is factoring is going to come back and hunt you forever and ever. What do the first 2 have in common?
X squared.
So x squared, x minus 7. What do the next 2 have in common?
Negative 4.
A negative 4 is correct, so this becomes x minus 7. Are my 2 parentheses the same?
Yes.
Yes, right? So, and I meant to highlight it. Those 2 are the same, which means we're on the right track. X squared minus 4 and an x minus 7. Am I done?
No.
No, because this,
Difference 0.
it's a difference of squares. So this becomes x plus 2 and an x minus 1. Oh gosh, not 1. It's a 2. And the x minus 7. So because I actually need to know the answers, you have to set each one equal to 0. And that should be a piece of cake. So this becomes x equals negative 2, x equals 2, and an x equals 7. So when I do this, minus 2, 2, and 7. Those are my zeros, but there's going to be some explanation. I need to know what is the multiplicity.
One.
I don't even know how to spell, but anyways, multiplicity, the multiplicity. How do we know it's a multiplicity of 1?
Use it once.
Because there was an exponent of 1, exponent of 1, exponent of 1. That's why it's a multiplicity by 1. When it is a multiplicity of 1, does it touch and turn back around, or does it cross? It crosses. Very good. Crosses the x-axis, crosses the x-axis, crosses the x-axis. I'm not going to write everything out. Now, you could graph it also, but the thing is, if it's an odd number, if your multiplicity is odd, it crosses. If your multiplicity is even, it touches and it turns around. Are we okay with that? Yes? And maybe I should just throw one more out there that looks like this. And it's already going to be factored out, so you don't have to stress out. Okay, so let's say it's already factored out. They give it to you like this. I have a 4 is equal to 0, x minus 3 is equal to 0, and an x plus 6 is equal to 0. I think when we did the notes, I wrote it out twice and then 3 times, but you're going to get the same answer. This does not exist. This becomes a what? A positive 3, and this becomes a negative 6. So I just have 3 and negative 6, right? But what is the multiplicity of that 3? 2. How do I know? Because of that 2 right there. Multiplicity of 2. What is my multiplicity of the negative 6? 3. So it has to do this 2 with that 2, this 3 with that 3. So if it's odd, like the 1, what do we say it does?
It crosses.
It crosses. But if it's even, then it what?
Touches it and turns back.
Touches and turns. So those are 2 things I need you to remember there. So that's for 5 and 6. Preguntas. Are we good? Ganas. Alrighty, so this was for problems, I said, what, 5 and 6, right? So after problems 5 and 6, we need to talk about turning points. Now, turning points is very easy. This is going to be your next turning points. So this should be problems 7 and 8. And the only thing you had to do was find your degree, which is n, and subtract 1. That's all that was. So for the first problem, 10x to the 5th plus 3x to the 4th minus 2x to the 6th plus 1. Who is the degree here?
6.
The 6. And what is 6 minus 1? 5. So there is 5 turning points. And that's it. But if you get a problem that looks like this, x plus 2 squared, x minus 1 to the 3rd, x plus 5, and let's do one more, x minus 7 squared also. Now, do you really need to multiply 100 times to figure out what your leading exponent is going to be? No, all you had to do was add 2 plus 3. What number is here? 1 plus 2. So 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2 is?
7.
Is it?
Wait, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8.
8. It's 8, guys. 4. Yep, it's 8. We subtract 1 and we find out my TP is 7. So make sure you subtract the 1. Now, problems 9, 10, 11, and I think 12. Yeah. And I'm going to double check. All you have to do is just graph. It is graphing. And that's it. I believe there is one more thing. All right, so we're going to do one problem just in case it comes up on your assignment. Some of them are not, but I think 9 through 12 is going to be the graphing, but just in case you get something that says the intermediate theorem, value theorem, if you get something like that, they're going to give you an equation. So for instance, let's say you get 2x to the 4th minus 4x squared plus 1. And they're going to say, please find the answer between -1 and 0. So it's pretty simple. If you happen to get a question like this, maybe it's not in the assignment, but it'll be in the quiz. Not sure. So all you have to do is replace the x with a -1. So I come here to -1 to the 4th minus 4 times the -1 plus 1. -1 squared. What is -1 to the 4th? Does it end up being positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive 1. And then -1 squared is also a positive 1. This is 2 minus 4 plus 1. And what do I get?
Yes.
A -1, right? So when I do a -1, I get a -1. But then you also have to do it for the 0. So let's do it for the 0. 2 times 0 to the 4th minus 4 times 0 squared plus 1. Well, this is going to become what? 0. This is going to become 0 plus 1, which is a. So my answer, when it's the 0, it's a 1. When it was a -1, it was a -1. So the question here is going to ask, is there an intermediate value theorem? Well, first thing is there a negative and a positive? So then the answer is yes. And then you just need to make sure they have the right answer. So if the sign changes, it's a yes. And that's it. 1 through 12. And then quiz 3 or whatever quiz has 3.1, 3.2.
This is 3.2, right?
This is 3.2.